All right, guys. Tom Davidson, Landon Hutchinson back with Yard Work. We've got the Minnesota Mash with us today. Just looking back from last year's events, I know you guys always come to the University of Minnesota event, which for us is kind of cool to get up that way. We do so much with Big Ten teams in general, but I think a lot of teams forget that you can go a little further north and still play some pretty good baseball. I know in that event, between your 15s and 16s, I think 3 of the 8 teams that had advanced were from your guys' program. I know you won that event. And then the All Prospect World Series that we did at Grant Park at the end of July, I know the 15-year-olds won their bracket that they were in for that. So program that we're certainly familiar with and we know can win some games and some events with us. But tell us kind of when the MASH started, where you guys are at now, and maybe what you're looking forward to in the future.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is a welcome break to my day for sure. So it's nice to see some new people, meet some new people. We're on shelter in place in Minnesota right now. So basically, all non essential businesses are shut down. So we got some time on our hands. So
Yeah.
MASH started in 2012. Me and our other founder, Tom Buske, founded MASH, basically just trying to not get real jobs.
Yeah.
Tom was at the same high school as me. He was a little older than me. Played with him in Legion Baseball. And when I was done playing my professional career, which lasted 2 weeks, I called him. He got me an interview at a Caribou Coffee, and we started MASH. So we started with 24 12-year-olds. In 2012, they basically played an in-house game against each other, and now it's turned into something very different. We have, over the course of our summer, spring, and fall, around 50 different teams. We have 13 full-time employees. And then from a baseball standpoint, we also have a full actual gym called MASH Performance, and then a human performance wing of our company called the Mindstrong Project as well. So it went from just doing a little baseball to just trying to figure out how to help as many people as possible.
Nice. So where did you play when you were playing?
So I grew up in Minnesota. I played for Apple Valley High School from 2004 to 2007, and then I played at the University of Illinois Chicago. Fire Up Flames, 3-time Horizon League champs. I
Great
was like,
backdrop at that part.
yeah, oh, it's the best. That's what they literally pretty much brought me out there on my recruiting trip and brought me into the stands, which are now beautiful. Thanks to Curtis Granderson, a beautiful stadium. But at that time, it was, basically soccer park bleachers. And I looked at that that backdrop. I said, "This is where I want to go to school." So went to school there, played there 4 years, and then actually was done. Worked at a facility in Illinois for 1 year. Kind of figured out how the whole business of youth baseball works, what the lessons are like, all of those things, and then went back and played 2 weeks with the Southern Illinois Miners. Went 0 for 14, got released, and drove back home and started MASH with Tom.
Yeah. So and then you guys started with the 12-year-olds, and then it just kind of exploded from there. How did everybody get connected as far as the growth of the program?
Yeah, I think anyone who's called me, and I've got a lot of calls from people in this area that are not just baseball guys, that are maybe starting football camps or starting hockey programs. Those are obviously big up here. It all comes down to human connection, right? And figuring out a way to have those kids respond to you and how to get the best out of them. And any club that is growing properly is growing from word of mouth. Everything else that we do is just an extension of our word of mouth. But if you treat people the right way and you actually make a difference in kids' lives, you're going to have good things happen. And that's how we've experienced most of our growth.
Yeah, I know we talked on a different episode here about, I had a tweet that I saw from a group in the South talking about, they went to a tournament. There was 30 teams in there. 26 of them are from the same organization, and kind of complaining about, what does this mean for baseball, the state of baseball. And I mean, obviously I responded, I said, state of baseball is great. Look at how many teams there are. I said, look, if that guy doesn't have 26 of the teams or whatever, and he only takes 2 at that age division, I think they're talking about the youth side, but if he only has 2, the other 24 teams are going to go somewhere. They're going to pop up. And ultimately, my comment was, who are we to say, those 26 teams aren't at the right place, whether they're 26 12-year-old teams or 15s with the same jersey on. what if that's the premier, instructional facility? They're getting the best activity they can where they're at. Why are we throwing this guy under the bus that's running all these teams? There's a lot of work that goes into that stuff. And, I just, it really bothered me in some respect that they threw the tournament host under the bus and said, hey, they're just making all the money or whatever. And then a couple people chimed in and said, no, it's the team coordinator that's making all the money. And I was like, look, these kids could all 26 teams from this organization could be benefiting way more than they could be if they were all separated. You just don't know.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that's something when I first got into this, I didn't really in Minnesota's a little different. So like growing up here, you played Legion baseball. So
Right.
all the way up until about 2012, there was pretty much only one club that was running out of here, which was the Minnesota Blizzard. They were pretty much the only club that was here. And we developed a really good relationship with the Blizzard and Adam Barta, and I love what they do. And when you're first navigating through that, you see these teams and you see organizations who have 5, 6, 7 teams at one age group. And your first instinct, right, is to go, well, this is a problem. There's too many teams. Well, the more that I looked at this, if you are, and we call it MASH, and sometimes we get this on social media, we call it our program. We spell it with a U sometimes. We call it a program. We took that from actually On Deck Sports when they were building our facility. They had a guy out there and he kept saying program. What's your program like? I said, I love how you say that. And he said, well, I never say program because that's something you buy at the front of a football field right before a game starts. So if you know what you're doing, you're a program. And so we started saying program. And that's what we tell people all the time. I think people get so caught up with being sold on the fact that they're on a quote unquote top team. Well, if an organization only has one team, that's their top team. It just means that they don't necessarily have a lot of kids that are trying out for their club. So that's always an interesting process for us when we go apply for tournaments. If we have 2 or 3 teams at an age group, because we take every age group and every tryout based on talent. And are they a fit for what we're trying to accomplish, right? Both on and off the field. So sometimes we'll have one team at an age group. Maybe we'll have 40 kids try out, we'll only have one team. Sometimes we'll have 50 kids try out, we'll have 4 teams. It should just be dependent on, are these kids the right fit for your program? And are they going to enhance the kids around them? And ultimately, kids are going to be around other kids that they identify with. So if you're creating something like that, I would hope that you would have more than one team where people want to respond to that same type of atmosphere and culture.
Yeah. How are you guys kind of separating yourselves from the other programs up there or programs and what you're building with the MASH?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for us is that we've invested in people. I think when we first started this, Tom and I just did every lesson. So we were your classic, get there early, go from 3 to 10 every weekday, and then kind of 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Saturday, Sunday. And the more we did that, the more we realized that we needed to bring on quality people. So I think something that makes us different is that everyone works at MASH is either that is their career or they're trying to make it their career. So our full-time staff, that's a huge deal to me because you're walking into a facility where every time people are going to know who you are, right? So regardless if you have a favorite instructor or not, every single one of those 13 people is there every single day, right? If you're there every single day, you're able to actually create a culture instead of making it a buzzword. So I think that's the thing I'm most proud of is our staff. And we have had, now we're at 13 full-time staff members, and most of them have been working there for over 5 years at this point. So there's longevity in what we're doing, which means a lot to me.
Being that you guys have all those full-time employees, do you think that benefits you in the development side of things as far as tech goes? Because a lot of these programs can't really put all that time that they would. A high school coach is teaching, he's got another job and he's not making as much money. Do you feel that that's had a major impact on you guys?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great question too, because as you grow, right, it starts being difficult to manage. You go from being a coach to being a more of a leadership role in making sure that everyone has purpose within their role. Not only are these guys going to want to start by giving lessons, but after 1 or 2 years, they're going to want to go, okay, now I want to be Rapsodo certified, or I want to be Driveline certified, or I want to go off and do my own project. And really that's how the Mind Strong project started. Was one of our coaches was extremely passionate about overall human performance. And so he started going down that wing. So we've really allowed people to flourish in what they're actually passionate about, and then give them opportunities to say, okay, if you want to be the lead pitching instructor here, show us that you want to be the lead pitching instructor here. Whether that means you're doing your own research on yourself, you are actively throwing and working, you are figuring out what Rapsodo is and teaching us. I think the more that guys can dive fully into the deep end of their job, and the more freedom they get within that, the further everybody goes. Because nobody wants to be the coach on the staff that isn't getting the job done. It's just like being a part of a team. That doesn't feel great.
Yeah. How many of those tech pieces are you guys implementing within the facility?
Great question. So we got Rapsodo recently. We got the hitting and the pitching one. We have never been traditionally a tech. We've been more of a human connection type company. But at some point, you got to look at this stuff and say, well, there's a difference between being who you are and just being lazy and having blanket statements, right? So this whole year, we spent a lot of time on just actually understanding Rapsodo and how to implement it, and playing around with it in our hitting and pitching programs, because I think a lot of people get that and they just set it down, right? And they let people hit off it and they
Just
see
look
how
at a
far
number.
they hit the ball. So we've taken a whole year approach of saying, let's actually educate ourselves on Rapsodo and know what the heck we're doing, because we didn't, we had to take time and figure out how to use it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think a lot of people just kind of put that thing in place and say, how big of a number can I get to pop up? Let's see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've gone down that road before. I mean, I started coaching when I was 23 years old. So obviously I've learned a lot. I'm 31 years old now, but when I started, it was everything that I've ever been taught. And you slowly have to learn how to actually coach. And I know I went through phases where I said, okay, like every day we're just going to swing as hard as we can. Well, I had to go through that process to learn that most young hitters, when they swing as hard as they can, they don't know what they're doing. It's the least transferable skill of all time, right? So I know I've taken a lot of lumps in the last 8 years of learning how to coach. And I hope all coaches that are out there, not just in club baseball, but in college or professional baseball, are just continually trying to figure out ways to get better.
You doing that as well. This is the why generation. Everything's why. They might not say it, but they think it, So at least you have that in your back pocket. Why am I rolling over the ball? Why am I getting under the ball? And you put the Rapsodo up right there, and they see immediately. They have blast motion. They have all these sorts of technology, even just video, as simple as putting your cell phone up on a side view and seeing what you're doing with your swing or what you're doing with your mechanics is beneficial.
Yeah, it's a different world now, right? And this is always a fun conversation at our facility, as we talk about the difference between being old school and being lazy, right? So we always say we want to be a club that has like old school values, but has new school teaching. So it's the combination of, there's certain ways that you're supposed to play the game and you're supposed to conduct yourself, not even just in baseball, but as a human being. But also, let's not just use that as a way to not learn and move with the times, because a lot of this technology, a lot of stuff is awesome. I mean, I know with my hitters, I work with hitters primarily. This was the first year that we did that stuff, and it was fun. I mean, they learned right along with me, and I think coaches sometimes are a little bit too tight to the sleeve on not willing to admit that they're learning things as they go. That's not how we work inside of MASH. We're very transparent with our players and just say, listen, this is the first time we've used Rapsodo. Let's learn together. I know a little bit more than you, so I'm going to set the pace on it. But let's learn together on how to actually achieve your goals, which should be a coach's job.
I mean, I think that's important in all respects. I mean, Pastime started in 2006. I started back then, and I feel like I learn every year. And there's no reason not to. I mean, we learn tons of things every year. We implement, the All Scout series of events where we're doing stats and we're trying to track, metrics, things like that. And I mean, some of our competitors, I'm only 36. I feel like I'm still pretty young, but we've been doing this for such a long time that some of our competitors started their companies, based on how we were doing stuff in ours. And that, like, we know those guys now But I mean, yeah, I think it's important that everybody learns it. It's only going to help the players get better, the exposure to improve for those guys, and eventually help everybody along, a better path. On the exposure side, how are you guys, translating that to your players and getting them into that next level?
Yeah, so for us, that whole thing has been the overall, I would say, most difficult process, just because it's so liquid, right? And that
Yeah.
what a college coach wants and the time frame in which they're recruiting a player and what events to go to, from all the way down to that, from top to bottom. I think from a MASH standpoint, that is the most difficult part, mainly because players are very confused on what an expectation is of how to get recruited, what level they can get recruited at, the quality of play within each level. They don't understand all of these things, and they shouldn't. I was lucky enough to be recruited in 3 sports in high school, and me and my dad didn't know anything, right? We would go to all these things, and we would get out, and I love my dad because he was honest with me. He'd be like, this is the first time I've ever done this. I have 3 sisters. So we're passionate about that process. As I'm getting older now, I have a lot of friends who are actually within college baseball and coaching. So I reach out to them as much as I can and say, what do you want in an actual video? Like,
Right.
literally, tell me what you actually want to see. I don't want to send you anything more or anything less. So
Nobody wants your background music.
yeah, it's like, just
background music.
tell me what to cut out of there so you actually watch it, and then reach out. So that's another learning process. I think it's been the biggest one for me. I think that most families, not just within MASH, but across the country, would expect that a club coach would have every single answer of how to get recruited. And we traditionally start with the fact that no matter what any coach tells you from any club, any high school, any tournament, you are going to recruit yourself. Ultimately, you are going to get recruited by yourself in the way you act, in the way you play, in the way that you reach out to coaches. Because yes, they're going to reach out to me as a club coach and say, what do you have on this guy, if they have a previous relationship with me. But other than that, you are ultimately on your own. And giving the kids the mindset that they are on their own in recruiting, while we also obviously help them, but their mindset has to be, I need to do this. It's been really beneficial for us. And it's helped a lot because when you're 23 and you call college coaches, most of them don't call you back. When we first started, I tell kids now in our club all the time, you guys are very lucky, because there were kids in 2012, 13, 14 that went to schools that maybe they could have gone to other dream schools they wanted to, but we didn't have the resources or the reputation to get you there. Well, now in 8 years, these kids are reaping the benefits of things that kids did in 2012.
Yeah, same thing in our space. It took, gosh, we talk about it all the time, and how many times I have to ask to get on, Minnesota or Vanderbilt. I mean, it wasn't a, hey, let me just call them and see what happens. I mean, it took years to get on there, and ultimately it probably took those guys coming to an event, probably took Minnesota coming to Indianapolis or Michigan or, a Northwestern event, and looking at guys and going, okay, well, they do have some pretty good players that go there. They've got good teams, and the same thing when you go down to Vandy. I mean, if you've got a Vandy and a Louisville and, now Michigan, that they can get just about anybody they want to go there. I mean, but now they have the opportunity to allow us to bring some of our events there to showcase these guys. I mean, those things don't come just overnight. You've got to be able to earn that. And the same thing with a player as far as getting recruiting. You got to be able to earn it, show what you can do.
Yeah, and I know that's like one of our kids' favorite part of being a part of Pastime tournaments is getting to play on those big fields. And I know for our coaching staff, it's always a priority to talk to the kids about this might be the best field that you ever play on in your life.
Yeah.
And we're not scared to talk about like things like that. I think coaches get scared to talk about those things, but it's okay, fellas, like not everyone in here is going to play at the highest level of Division I baseball or professional baseball. And that's okay. Like that's not what our program's about. But at the same time, let's teach them to enjoy those moments that are being provided by the events that we're going to. Have fun playing at the University of Louisville. I had a blast. I remember going out there and coaching and just thinking if I was in high school, I'd be crapping my pants, even though there's 5 kids in the stands. Like
Yeah.
it's just different. It's just a different experience. I hope everyone that goes to your guys' tournaments is appreciative of the opportunity to play on those fields and doesn't take it for granted.
Yeah, we discuss that a lot because there's different experiences even within our events, but you've got very good programs that are running events at, even the facility side of it. I'd love to have a facility all turf with, 12 fields or whatever right there. But ultimately, there are times where that just doesn't fit the experience we're trying to give some of these guys. And that, those are high school fields that are turf. We've got those too, whether it's in Louisville or Nashville, but those facilities like that. And again, I love using those. There's no knock on those, but it doesn't have a Vanderbilt background. It's not a UIC skyline. There's something to be said that when you're playing on those college venues, I'm a JUCO guy. I was never going to play at Louisville. I was never going to play at Michigan. And even as an event host, we go out there and walk on some of those fields. And I'm like, man, this is legit. Let's go play.
Well, and those are some of my best memories from playing at UIC. We would always open the first 3 weeks would be, going to Vanderbilt or going to Texas. And those are still the things that stick in my head. So when we go to those fields, UIC, I love them to death. They're a heck of a baseball program, but we weren't drawing crowds for Texas. They were waiting for TCU to come in. So
yeah,
we were playing in front of a lot of the same size fans that probably our kids are playing in front of when they go to these stadiums.
for
So
sure.
I hope that everyone who signs up for your stuff understands the benefit of playing at those fields. And the scary part for our kids is I feel like they've almost gotten used to playing at the University of Minnesota. And I don't ever want them to feel that way, because ultimately they probably will only end up playing 10 to 15 games there in their entire lives, except for our kids that actually go there. So I hope that everyone who listens to this really instills that in their kids and tells them to enjoy every moment they get to play on one of those feature fields.
We talk about whether we've ruined some of these kids with maybe the expectations, because then when you go down to Louisville or Vanderbilt or Michigan or Notre Dame, I mean, you kind of build this expectation that why isn't every field like this? Why are we playing at a high school field now?
Yeah, you go to those ones. I know that Notre Dame was one with our 15s last year. I think their first 2 games they luckily played at the big field, and then they moved over to a high school field, and it was the recalibration of saying, like, this is a nice field too. Okay, yeah, it ain't.
You never want your feature field game to be the 9 a.m. on Thursday, because then everything after that, it doesn't matter what field we have, it's never going to be as good.
For sure. You just got to enjoy the time that you actually get on the field and move on from there.
One thing we stress too, Steve, that a lot of players and parents don't really understand is the easiest thing in the world to do is get a social media account, get a Twitter account, get your own email address. Because me as a coach, as much as I want to know about the parents, don't get me wrong, that goes into the recruiting process for sure. But I'm recruiting the kid, So if I want to recruit the kid, I want to make sure that he's got the accountability things. He knows how to make his own Twitter account. He's not posting things that's above the line, across the line, all those little things that go into it. Can he make a video? Can he post it? You never know. You could be on, like you said, Notre Dame. There might not be any coaches there, but if you just get a couple hits or a couple good pitches, we have the pocket radar. That's been huge for us, just getting a couple of videos. We get calls and emails all the time from coaches that are, who's this kid? What program is this guy from? We'd love to reach out to him, but we can't. He doesn't have a Twitter handle. He doesn't have this, and this. So we've been stressing to a lot of people, it's easy. It's free. You don't have to do anything. So that's one thing that I would like to stress to you and to anyone who's listening, is that's something easy that anyone can do.
Yeah, as long as they're using it right. Because how many times have we gotten a tweet from a kid where their game just got rained out and they're just blowing us up, and I'm like, Jimmy, calm down. First of all, there are like 100 coaches that follow this Twitter feed. Just relax, let your coach handle it so your name doesn't get blown up on here.
Yeah, and that's something that our coaches actually do a lot of, is they'll go through. So, like, we're very lucky to have a guy, Rhett Hebig, who does all of our social media. Like, that's his job. That's his job description. We have an actual person who does that. And so monitoring kids' social media is a big part of our job, and making sure that if we see something that we don't like or that we know somebody else wouldn't like, we go up to them in person when they're in the facility and we say, look at this, buddy. Look what I got right here. You know what I mean? Look at this. What do you think about that? You want to get recruited, but you're going to retweet that. And down to Twitter, even your things you like are popping up.
Mhm.
You can't even like stuff without people seeing it. So once you get into that world, understand what you're getting into it for. And I know that when I first got on social media, like I was probably 19, 20 years old. So sometimes I go back and I scroll back through my social media and I'm just cringeworthy of the things that I used to do and post on there. But what a good lesson to be able to scroll down and show your kids, here's what I posted when I was 21. And now that I'm 31, here's what people still think about me from when I was 21. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? So
you just have to. I think it's hard to get through to the young guys just to make sure they know that's a part of your recruitment too. It may be your personal social media account, but coaches look at that stuff and they see on there that you're involved in this activity or that activity and you've posted stuff like this, and there's another guy that's as good, maybe not even as good as you, they're going to go with the other guy if they're a little more polished and professional than what you are, because it shows where your head's at.
yeah, and that feedback too of when you're getting recruited, I don't think kids understand the concept that college coaches, this is their livelihood. And not only that, but if you are going to play college baseball, they are going to be in a clubhouse with you pretty much every day for 4 years. So
Yeah.
you better believe they're recruiting guys that they like. Yeah, that's a big part of it. It doesn't matter how good you are if they go, well, this guy's going to be a nightmare for 4 years. It's just not going to happen. I know that at UIC, I was lucky enough to host a lot of kids on their recruiting trips. And there was only one time I did this, but there was one time I went into the coach's office and I just said, this is a guy that we don't want. He's not a good fit for us. And that kid did not get a scholarship offer that day.
Yeah.
So everything that you do matters all the way even up through the point where you're going on your visit matters.
Yeah, on the growth side for the MASH specifically, how do you kind of see the next couple of years playing out from, where you guys are currently versus, maybe where you want to be from an organizational standpoint?
Yeah, it's been a fun year for us. Obviously, the last month has been an adjustment period for us, which is fine. It's been an adjustment period for everybody. But in August, we actually opened up our second facility in St. Cloud, Minnesota. It's about a 20,000 square foot building that we actually own, which is like this part of the state, and then in Egan is this part of the state. So we're kind of split into two. So guys from each areas can go there, and the staff up there is incredible. So we have another 3 full-time guys up there who have really embraced us. I think that anyone who's looking to do expansion, that can be really scary. And it should be scary if you actually care about the culture and what you're providing kids. So this first 6 months has been a great introduction into what we do and how we do it. And they're a big part of what we do now. And it's expanded our reach to where our team's got a lot more talented, obviously, this past year, because now you're reaching throughout the entire state instead of just in one condensed area. So
both facilities will carry that MASH name as far as an organization, so they can either go to A or B to train and be a part of that program.
Yeah, so what we do is in Minnesota, there's fall, spring, and summer teams. So spring are for kids 14U and down. You basically play that before you play for your association, for your city team. That's the spring. The fall is for everybody. And then the summer here, we just do 15U and up. And our summer teams will be a combination of those two different areas. So now we're drawing, and to make that team, like that's the one team that we say, if you want to play on a summer team, you got to be one of the top 15 guys in that age group.
But your summer is focused primarily on those top level select kids at that point.
Yep. So if we put together a summer team, it's saying this is a really good fit for you to actually go travel and compete. And like you said, we have like our 15U age group this year, we have 3 teams, and we've never had that before. And I know that can shock people, not only when you sign up for a tournament, but also the kids who make the team. And explaining the concept of the reason we have 3 teams is because we had 85 guys try out from not only the entire state of Minnesota, but from Wisconsin. So it's been a really fun ride entering those guys in. And for all of us, I think it's been the biggest challenge to take what we're most proud of, which is culture and relationships, and try to implement that into a whole nother building that's an hour and a half away. But it's worked, and it's worked really well, and it's been a ton of fun. And I'm glad we did it at that time, because now we're able to support those guys throughout this month process, and they're able to support us too. It's fun getting on those Zoom calls every day and just saying, what are we doing today? how are we going to make a difference?
Yeah.
Who are some of those top prospects that you've got that's already committed somewhere or some that are rising that you're excited about?
Yeah, I got to give a shout out to Carter Hendrickson. Carter's a kid from Farmington who I actually played for his dad growing up. And I used to play with him like by the Apple Valley batting cages. He's committed to Xavier. Really, to be honest, our class of 2021 is the best class that we've ever had. I don't say that as a insult to any other class. It's just these guys have been here for so long. They've been here since 2012. I would say about 80% of them. And then other really good players have come in with them. From our 2021 class, I truthfully think we have about 20 guys who could be Division I players, not just from their talent level, but from their work ethic. So I want to make sure that I don't say 3 or 4 names and get in trouble.
Yep.
But I got to give Carter a shout out. One, because I used to play with him at the batting cages when he was like 4 years old. And secondly, he is our first commit in that age group. It's a weird process at MASH because we try to make sure guys are committing when we feel like they're ready and they don't rush a commitment. So traditionally our kids commit a little later than other maybe kids would outside of our club. But the class of 2021 is one that college coaches are going to want to get out and see. Not only are they really good, but they're really hardworking. They're great teammates.
Yeah, we were actually just talking with Coach DeLucia from Ohio State, and he was just talking about how the recruiting process has changed with how young they have to go after kids and how it could be not a disservice, but, you know, we got kids that are extremely young trying to make a decision that's a life decision. And you don't want to do it too soon, but, you know, you kind of have to get ahead of the curve a little bit too. So it's nice that you talked about that.
Yeah, and Brad Goldberg is actually the pitching coach there. He's one of my good friends, and I talked to him a lot about that. You know, and I know college coaches are kind of the same way. They're dealing with the same thing that club coaches are, but on the other side. Obviously, at what point do I want to go offer this kid? Is he ready? Where will he be in 2 years if he's a freshman? So I think that our kids also understand that if you wait a little longer, the scholarship money might not be there, but the opportunity will. You know, if you're a lefty that's throwing 85 to 87, someone's going to find a spot for you. So making sure that you actually go through the process and develop as a player. I've always kind of told our families that when you get to be age 16 is kind of where you'll figure out where your potential growth is within the next 2 years. So before then, we kind of just tell everyone, why don't you just relax and try to get to be the best possible player that you can be. But it's tough because when you see a 15-year-old commit, and some of them do, the panic button hits, right? So I guess for anybody who's out there, just understand, I committed to a Division I program right before the start of my senior baseball year. So that would have been April of my senior year when everyone's starting to go into summer. So be proactive, but also don't feel rushed.
It's the same thing Coach DeLucia said. He didn't commit till his senior year, and he mentioned like, hey, if the recruiting was, you know, then how it is right now, I would have never played at Ohio State. Like it just wouldn't have happened because I would have been too late.
Well, that and the willingness to be a walk-on, right? The willingness to be and by a walk-on, I say a recruited walk-on, but I think we all get so obsessed with the financial part of it, which we should. I mean, I'm not stupid. I know that money matters, but at the end of the day, between 25% and 0% to get a dream opportunity to play at a school you've always wanted to play at, I don't think you should go to another school just because they gave you a scholarship. Yeah. I think that everyone should chase the dream and the vision that they have for themselves, and whatever way they can continue to chase that is how they should pursue it.
Yeah, we had a guy on, a friend of mine, Chad Reineke, came on the other day. He's a pro ball guy, and he wanted to go to school at Miami of Ohio. He was, you know, Legion ball was king when he was playing, so he didn't get that exposure maybe to the right program. And he walked on at Miami of Ohio, and then after his senior year ended up getting drafted, you know, played big league ball, you know, went to the show. And I mean, it's a perfect example of that. He didn't want to just go to a school to go to the school and play there. He wanted to go to the right fit for him. And he knew that he had to work hard once he got there, but I mean, big league guy. Yeah. I mean, we talked about it we could have kept him on here for an hour and a half. It was pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, you got you got two choices, right? At that point, you either go to a school that you specifically want to go to, and you're going to have a massive amount of conviction the second you step on campus and find a way to make it happen, or you're going to go somewhere that somebody really wants you, right? And we talk to kids about that too. It's like, where should I go? I'm picking between here and here. I like them both the same. It'll be, well, who do you feel like truly wants you to go to their school? That's another defining moment for a lot of our players as well.
Yeah. Go ahead, Landon.
What's one major difference between, or what would you tell, either way how you want to answer this, to your 23-year-old self to where you are now? Is there something that you would want to tell yourself back then? Like, what were you thinking? Or have you grown? What's the major difference between how you were coaching when you first started to right now?
Yeah, I would say calm down. When you're first starting a club, you know, a fall baseball game on a Sunday doubleheader against another club in the area seems like the World Series, even if you just got done playing baseball at a really high level, because it's what you want to accomplish, right? I want to be a baseball coach, and I want to coach baseball at this level. I think that the opportunity that club baseball provides from an 18-year-old and down is a true life changing. You actually can change lives in that window, right? It's not saying you can't at other windows, but that's my purpose at a level that parents are involved. Be certain of why you're doing it and relay that message over and over and over again. No, really believe it, which for us, it's inspired growth, right? So for us, it's really simple. What are we inspiring growth in our kids, both on and off the field? That is a very easy way for me to look. Instead of going, we just lost 6-5, I'm going to have 6 kids go play for another club. So I guess my long-winded answer, sorry, I get passionate about that because I think a lot of coaches get out of coaching because they're pushed out of coaching. And when you can understand that people's emotions are always going to be tied to their most precious asset, which is their kids, you can take that next step and just understand why you're doing it and relay that message to them. So calm down. Stop thinking that games actually matter for 15-year-olds. They don't.
I'm writing that down for myself for this summer if we get to play again.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, it's hard, right? I mean, I'm sure you guys deal with it more than anybody, right? Because you have to provide a product to not only the kids, but the coaches and the parents.
Yeah.
And so it's really easy to try to pick apart a service when you only see the final product. You don't understand everything that went into it. So when you understand why you're doing things and your purpose, it becomes a lot easier.
Well, hopefully we get to get back out there and, appreciate you coming on with us. As soon as we get word on what we're allowed to do and what you guys are allowed to do, we'll certainly start touching base and see if we can get these guys going. I think we're going to go kind of in protective mode there those first couple of weeks of events. I think it's the smartest thing to do, especially from the pitcher, the arm side. But, hopefully we get to play this year. I feel bad for the seniors that may have lost their senior season of high school, and we're looking at each other over here going, look, we've got to do something really special this summer for these guys, because there are some kids out there that are still they're unsigned. We got to figure out if we can help them get to that position, which is where on our social media area, if you guys are doing those videos and things like that, and we can help pub some of these guys that have that legit chance to get to the next level. I mean, that's what we're here for. We can't make any schedules yet, so this is what we're doing.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. And feeling that support is great. And the baseball community should be supporting each other through this time for sure. And that's all we can truly do. So I appreciate you guys giving me an opportunity to talk to you and talk about MASH a little bit and for putting on great tournaments.
Yeah, I'll hit you up to get one of those pullovers you got on, but appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, fellas. Thanks for everything. Stay safe.
All right, we'll see ya.